3 taps. Pause. 5 taps. That was all. No voices. No shouting. No hand signals anyone could see. Just a tiny pattern. Tap, tap, tap. Wait. Tap, 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 tap. Echoing through concrete like a secret heartbeat. And then the most shocking thing happened. The whole tier changed at once. Men sat up in their bunks at the same time. Others stood and faced the door. In the day room, 2 lines split into 4 without a word. A folded scrap of paper the size of a matchbox slid across the floor and stopped at the exact foot it was meant to find. An officer looked up from his log, confused. Nothing obvious had moved. But everything had moved. Leo heard the taps and froze. He was new, only 3 weeks at Pelican Bay. He had learned to keep his eyes low and his ears open. But this was different. The taps were talking and he did not know the language. He saw the scrap of paper resting by his shoe. Someone behind him coughed once, sharp, like a period at the end of a sentence. Pick it up or leave it? He bet. The door to the tier buzzed open. Count time, an officer called. Boots hit concrete. Radios hissed. The paper brushed the sole of Leo's shoe like a tiny wave, then kept sliding, away from him, toward the table where 3 older men sat very still. A second pattern started. 2 taps, pause, 2 taps, pause, long pause like a lullaby for people who never sleep. The whole room held its breath. And then the lights flickered. A red alarm blinked over the door, but the siren stayed silent. The officers looked at each other. The 3 older men at the table looked at Leo. One of them smiled without showing teeth. The count began. The taps kept talking. The paper finally stopped. Inside that small silent storm, Leo understood one thing only. If he moved the wrong way, he would say the wrong thing without saying anything at all. Now, let's go back to the beginning of the day, before the taps, before the paper, before the lights made the room feel red. The fog came in low from the Pacific, wrapping the prison in gray. Gulls cried over the razor wire. In the clinic, Nurse Tanya lined up little cups of medicine and wrote "Ask about sleep" on a sticky note. In the tower, Officer Rivera poured his coffee and checked the board. Short staff, 2 cameras fuzzy, yard call moved up 10 minutes. He underlined the camera note twice. In his cell, Leo woke to the thin rattle of keys and the heavier sound of doors sliding open. He sat up slow, careful not to draw attention. His cellmate, Dante, stretched his shoulders and tied his shoes. "Today you listen," Dante said, voice low. "Don't try to be smart." "I'm just trying to be quiet," Leo said. "Quiet is good," Dante answered. "But here, silence is not empty. It's full of words." Breakfast came late. Trays slid along a steel rail, eggs, toast, milk. Men ate fast but kept their eyes moving. At the far table, 2 older inmates stared at the TV with the sound off. A headline scrolled, "State says prison reform working." One man laughed without smiling. Officer Rivera watched the room from by the door. He liked to talk calm when he could. Calm is heavy here. It takes effort to carry. He noticed Leo glance toward the phones, then toward the men by the TV, then back to his tray. New eyes see too much, he thought. After breakfast, the tier settled into its slow rhythm. A counselor rolled by with forms. A cart squeaked past with laundry. A trustee mopped the same square twice. Leo stood by the window slot and looked at a slice of sky. Dante stood beside him, close enough to talk without moving lips. "There's a code," he said. "Taps. Footsteps. Where you stand. Who you look at. They don't write it down. You learn it or it learns you." "What do the taps mean?" Leo asked. "It depends," Dante said. 3-5 might mean hold. 2-2 might mean eyes up. Long pause can mean wait for count. Or it can mean don't ask. "How do I know which one?" Leo said. "You don't," Dante said. "You copy the people who do." A trustee scraped a chair across the floor. Once, twice, pause. At the same moment, a door 2 cells down bumped gently, as if a shoulder touched it from the inside. A man at the table tapped his shoe heel twice. The sound was almost nothing. But Dante moved an inch to the left. Leo followed. "See," Dante said, not looking at him. "That was a yes." "A yes to what?" "To the next yes," Dante said. "You don't need the whole story. You just need your line." Later, when the sun pushed through the fog and made a square of light on the floor, the first real test came. A folded paper, kite they called it, slid like a small gray fish along the concrete. It passed through a shadow, disappeared, reappeared by a table leg, vanished under a boot, then showed up by Leo's shoe. He stared at it. He thought of letters he had written to his mother, crumpled and rewritten, waiting for stamps he could not buy. He thought of the matchbox note he had heard about but never seen. He thought of getting it wrong. Behind him, someone coughed once. Dante's fingers tapped the rail. 1, 2, 3. Pause. Leo thought that meant pick it up. He reached. And that was when the door buzzed and the count started and the light flickered like the world was clearing its throat. Count time. Officer Rivera called, stepping onto the tier. 2 more officers followed, hands open, eyes scanning. The men on the benches stood, turned to the wall, showed their hands. Dante nudged Leo's elbow, tiny, like a fly landing. Leo pulled his hand back and faced the wall. The count moved like a slow wave. Last name, number, step back. Radios hissed. The red light over the door blinked steady. No siren. No shouting. Just the sound of numbers and the soft squeak of shoes. The taps kept going under it all. 3, pause, 5, closer this time like a whisper in your ear. Officer Rivera walked behind Leo and paused for half a second. Leo could feel the pause in his bones. Then Rivera moved on. The count ended. The room inhaled. Resume, a voice said. Men turned from the wall. The lines shifted like a school of fish. The paper slid away from Leo's shoe and stopped at the leg of the far table. An old hand, brown and steady, rested on it without looking down. A moment later it was gone. Come on, Dante said, leading Leo to a corner of the dayroom where the camera's view was widest and the sound was worst. No one planned it that way. It had just become that way. Places in Pelican Bay choose what they are. What would have happened if I picked it up? Leo asked. Maybe nothing, Dante said. Maybe you answer a question you didn't hear. Maybe you say yes to a job you can't do. Maybe people decide you don't listen well. Leo swallowed. How do you know all this? Dante looked at the floor like it was a map only he could read. You learn. Or you leave. Leave how? Leo asked. Dante shrugged. Transfers happen. Doors open. Or they don't. The rest of the day dipped and rose like a slow tide. Low, waiting by the phones, the dial toned like a flat line. High, a rumor that commissary had extra ramen. Low again, closed for inventory. High, Nurse Tanya passing by and saying Leo's name out loud, which made him feel like a person and not a number for exactly 5 seconds. As evening came, the taps got busier. Someone dropped a spoon. Someone answered with a heel click. The TV showed the weather with the sound off. A shadow moved across the table where the old men sat. A guard laughed at something on his radio and then stopped laughing right away as if the place had taken the sound back. Dante leaned in. Tonight you'll hear a longer message, he said. It will run the length of the tier. They'll check if we can pass it clean. What do I do? Leo asked. Nothing, Dante said. That's the test. Doing nothing is the test? Yeah, Dante said. Because doing nothing is not the same as not doing the wrong thing. The lights dimmed to evening. The same 3 taps started again. Tap, 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 then a pause, then 5. They bounced off concrete, through vents, under doors. Officer Rivera stood by the end of the tier and pretended to read his log, eyes moving like a cat watching dust in sunlight. The first paper slid. Not to Leo this time. Past him. Under a chair. Across a seam in the floor that looked like a crack but was a road. It stopped at the foot of a man with clear eyes and a faded scar. He did not bend. He did not look down. He just spoke in a voice as soft as a blanket. Hold, he said. He might as well have shouted. The whole tier held. Even the clock seemed to wait between ticks. Then the power hiccuped. The red light over the door blinked faster. The TV went to snow. A radio stuttered and died. For one breath, the prison felt like a room under water. Dante touched Leo's wrist. This is the part where people make mistakes, he whispered. What mistake? Leo said. The one where you try to help a message that isn't yours, Dante said. The taps changed, 2 pause, long pause. The folded paper moved again, tiny and sure. Leo kept his hands still and his eyes on the far corner like Dante had taught him. A new sound entered, soft shoe scrape, short cough, heel click. It spelled something only a few could read. The paper stopped by the table with the 3 old men. The middle one lifted his cup, set it down, lifted it again. That was an answer. And then, from a cell near the end of the tier, a single loud tap rang out. It was offbeat. Too hard. Wrong. The room tensed like a rope. Officer Rivera raised his head. The old man with the cup looked toward the wrong tap and then at Leo, as if measuring what the air would do next. The door buzzed. Tier move, an officer shouted. Cuff up for escort. Dante's jaw tightened. That wasn't part of the message, he said. What does it mean? Leo asked, throat dry. It means someone answered a question that wasn't theirs, Dante said. Or someone wants us to think they did. Boots hit the floor. The red light blinked fast. The three old men stood. The paper disappeared. Hands through the slot. Rivera called. His voice stayed calm but his eyes didn't. He looked down the row, then at Leo, then back again. The cuffs clicked shut on wrists up and down the tier. The escort line formed. Men stepped out one by one, silent, eyes low, shoulders square. As Leo turned to the door, he felt a brush against his ankle. Not a paper. Something heavier. He glanced down just enough to see a shape roll to a stop by his shoe, an eraser wrapped in plastic with a thin, tight string tied around it like a belt. Dante saw it too. His face went still. "That's not a kite," he whispered. "That's a drop." "What do I do?" Leo asked. "Nothing," Dante said. "But nothing has to be perfect." A hand tapped twice on the door behind them. The wrong tap echoed again from the far cell, louder this time. Rivera took one step toward Leo. The escort officer lifted his keys. The red light blinked the fastest it had all day. And the string around the eraser, the one that meant pull and pass in the secret language of the tier, quivered once, like it was waiting to see who would speak next without making a sound. The red light finally stopped blinking, but the air inside the tier didn't relax. Every sound felt heavier, the buzz of the lights, the shuffle of feet, the faint metallic click that echoed down the hallway. Leo's heart was still racing. That small eraser, wrapped in plastic with a string tied around it, sat motionless by his foot. No one spoke. Dante's eyes stayed fixed ahead, calm on the outside, but his jaw twitched once, a warning. Officer Rivera stood by the gate, his hand resting on the keys. "Move it," he said, his voice even. But Leo caught the hesitation. Rivera didn't like what he saw. He could feel something was off, the kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. Leo didn't move. Not yet. His foot hovered over the eraser. The message inside could mean anything, a name, a threat, an order. One wrong choice could mean stepping into someone else's war. Dante leaned slightly, whispering so low it barely existed. "When they drop something wrapped, it's not a note. It's proof. A pass, a trade, or a test." "What kind of test?" Leo asked. "The kind you don't want to take," Dante said. Rivera called again, louder this time. "Let's go." Dante started walking. Leo followed, heart pounding. As he stepped forward, his boot brushed the eraser. It rolled once, stopped by the wall, and vanished into the thin shadow below the bench. Behind him, the wrong tap echoed again, 3 sharp hits. Too fast. Too loud. This time Rivera heard it too. His head snapped toward the sound. "Who's tapping?" No one answered. The red light blinked again, slower now but pulsing like a heartbeat. Then Rivera's radio came alive. Static first, then a voice, tense and distant. "Control to Tier C. Possible communication breach. Lock it down." The doors slammed shut all at once, sealing the corridor in thick silence. Hours passed. The lockdown stretched from afternoon into evening. The tier lights dimmed to a dirty yellow. Meals came late, plastic trays passed through slots with the usual clangs, but no words. Leo sat on his bunk staring at the wall. He could still hear the rhythm of the taps in his head. Across the cell, Dante leaned against the wall, eyes closed. "They'll trace it," he said softly. "Trace what?" Leo asked. "The sound. The message. The line it traveled." "How?" Dante opened his eyes. "Every vent carries echoes. Every echo has an address. You think it's chaos here, but it's not. It's a map, and someone just stepped on the wrong square." Leo frowned. "What happens when they find who did it?" "Depends," Dante said. "If it was one of us, they'll settle it. If it was a test from up top, then everyone waits." "Waits for what?" "For permission to breathe," Dante said. That night, the taps returned, softer, slower, almost gentle. They crept through the tier like a ghost checking on the living. Leo listened carefully. He could almost make sense of it now, the pauses, the rhythm, the strange melody of survival. Tap, pause, tap, tap. Long pause. "What does that mean?" Leo whispered. Dante smiled slightly. "It means things are calm again. For now." But the calm didn't last. Minutes later, a metallic clink came from above, the sound of something small dropping through a vent. It hit the floor near the cell bars, rolled twice and stopped. Leo reached for it. Dante caught his wrist. "Don't," he said. The object was another eraser wrapped the same way. Same string. Same silent message. Dante exhaled slowly. "They're moving it through the whole block," he said. "This isn't random anymore." "What does it mean?" Leo asked. "It means a decision's been made," Dante said. "And if it's being passed this far down, we're part of it, whether we want to be or not. By morning the lockdown lifted. Officers moved slower than usual, eyes scanning everything. Rivera looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from knowing you're outnumbered even when you have all the keys. He paused by Leo's cell. "You new here?" "Yes, sir," Leo said quietly. "Keep your head down," Rivera said. "And your ears shut." He looked at the floor for half a second, where the eraser had been. It was gone. Leo nodded. "Yes, sir." Rivera walked on. As soon as he was gone, Dante pulled out a tiny folded square of tissue from his shoe. He opened it just enough for Leo to see faint pencil marks, a series of dots and dashes. "What is that?" Leo whispered. "The translation," Dante said. "From the drop." "What does it say?" Dante looked at him for a long time, then folded it back up. "It says the silence is broken." Leo frowned. "That's it." "That's enough," Dante said. "Because when silence breaks in here it never breaks small." The lights flickered again just once, but enough to make every man on the tier look up. Somewhere far down the corridor, a single loud tap echoed. Then another. Then all at once the walls came alive with sound, hundreds of taps answering back in rhythm, like a heartbeat that belonged to the building itself. Rivera's voice shouted over the radio, but it was swallowed by the noise. And as the storm of taps filled the tier, Dante whispered the words Leo would never forget. "They're talking to everyone now."